Hi, everyone. Sean Graben and Cindy Ronzoni here from the AXS TV PR department. And get started with our first question here.
Well, there's no real time limit on this, guys, so if you want to do follow-up question, feel free.
Yes. All right, so our first question here comes...
First, David and Teal say hi.
Sure, absolutely. David, Teal, do you want to give us a quick intro and talk about the upcoming season? David?
Yes, thank you for having me on this call today, and Sean and Cindy from AXS TV, thanks for all your logistics. I don't know how you do it. I got enough problems figuring out how to put a call on hold and answer another one. That said, all of you, thank you for participating and being engaged in WOW Women of Wrestling. We're excited to launch on Saturday night as part of AXS TV's Saturday Slam competition and broadcast the second season on AXS TV of WOW Women of Wrestling. The debut will happen at 8 o'clock East Coast time on AXS TV. It's a dynamic hour of power, I call it. WOW and its WOW superheroes. And it'll all take place from Los Angeles at the Belasco Theater. These events will play through, I think, the first weekend of December. I don't have each of the dates, but consecutively. And then a second set of these season programs will commence thereafter, I believe, in January. We'll take a break for the holidays. So, as many of you know, last year we welcomed Tessa Blanchard, easily the best in the industry, to WOW Women of Wrestling. And this year we're very excited and thrilled to welcome Teal Piper to WOW Women of Wrestling. And Teal is on the call today, and we couldn't be more happy with her involvement in our company. And I'll let her take it from there.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone.
Okay. You can ask a question, Sean?
Sure. Yeah, we have a few questions we have queued up as we figure out the logistics here. Teal, the first question for you comes from Mike Hughes with TV America, and he says that you seem to be performing and finding the spotlight quite easily, and so he'd like to know a little bit more about how far back you go as a performer and what you wanted to do when you were growing up.
Wow. So my whole life, I've always wanted to perform. And I think obviously my father was a big part of that. I really admired how international he was. You know, you could name a town in any city or any country in the world, and he would know like where to go to get good food there, and like have attended a party there, and all, you know, he just like knew somebody everywhere. And I just thought that was so interesting, and you know, that whole lifestyle I thought was really exciting. So of course the first thing I do is I moved to LA to become an actress and realized that you can't leave LA ever. So it kind of backfired in that sense. But so I don't remember a time where I didn't like look up to that, and you know, and just watching him perform. And you know, he was also a great actor and a great musician. A lot of people don't know that about him. So I had a lot of that influence from an early age. It was that, or I also wanted to be Indiana Jones, but I guess I went the other way.
Great. And a follow-up question is he'd like to hear what you thought of women in wrestling when you were growing up. He says that you've told the story about making a comment about one of them to your dad and him getting mad and breaking a table. I think that was in a recent interview you did. And so we'd like to hear more about that, maybe how old you were at the time and what you think of women's wrestling in retrospect.
Well, back then I was probably, I'm going to guess around 15 years old when that happened. And I just remember it as one of those defining, because I was a pretty good child. You know, my parents loved me. I was pretty easy. So it was one of those rare moments where my dad like got mad at me. And so it really like stuck out at me. But you know, it was a time in wrestling where women were really accessories to the men. And, you know, they had them looking more like porn stars than, you know, like legitimate, respectable athletes. And so, and I was at an age where, you know, I was very rebellious and just kind of being a little bit more feministic about everything. And so I had made a snotty comment. I can't even remember what the comment was, but just sort of like an eye roll towards the women in wrestling at the time. And he got furious at me, and he slammed his hands down on the table and broke it and just was going off about how hard those women work and how they have to be twice as talented as any guy in wrestling and work twice as hard and they get paid so little, you know. And it was just like, at the time, it was a little scary. I was like, shutting up. But it was very, you know, it was definitely a foot in the mouth moment for me where I didn't realize what the women had gone through. And that's kind of when it like opened my eyes. And in more recent years, it's just grown such a wonderful way. And the more I see women in wrestling developing and becoming such main event stars, you know, competing right up there with the boys, the more I wanted to be involved with it. So, I mean, this whole movement has really been a big part of why I felt like this is a time in my life to join.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Our next question, also about your father here, comes from Jonathan Snowden with Bleacher Report. And he says, you had a chance when working on the book to really dig deep into your dad's career. Was there any hesitation about joining the wrestling business after that?
Oh, I mean, I think I had hesitation long before the book. In a weird way, I felt more inspired connecting with his life in that way. I mean, there was a lot that I learned about him, and, you know, I met people that I had always heard about, but I had never physically met or talked to on the phone or anything. So it was very, in a weird way, spiritual for me, I guess I should say. And so, if anything, I think that book made me more inspired because I knew a lot of the bad stuff of wrestling. You know, growing up with a heel as a dad, especially in the 80s, like, you know, like I wasn't blind to the fact that his fans tried to kill him. I mean, even my own brother got stabbed in the back by a fan not that long ago, and that's, you know, that's recent. And so when I look at that, like I was aware of the dirtier side of wrestling, and my dad was just always on guard. And so I think the book really made me see his love for the sport that he had at an early age that I wasn't around for, and how much passion he had. And that, I think, if more than anything, inspired me to go forward into wrestling rather than make me afraid to enter it.
We know there's been some difficulties. So, Sean, are we going to open up the mics and they can ask questions? We'll just call the person.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Should we go
here.
Darren first?
Yes.
Okay, Darren, you should be able. Is he able?
All right, Darren, can you hear us okay?
I can hear okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, so Teal, so prior to announcing your entry into the wrestling world, you were a rising singer-songwriter. So do you still plan on pursuing that path?
Yes, actually, I have my next single being released October 1st called Anonymity. Amber Eyes is on iTunes now. And I think, again, that's something I get from my family. Like, I'm very creative, and I don't like to limit myself to one thing in life. I definitely plan on continuing down that path, but right now wrestling is coming first and foremost. I think it's something that I just need to be focused on and need to be doing. But, you know, I pretty much do everything I want to do when I want to do it.
And then also in terms of the family legacy, a lot of people have referred to MJF as the next Roddy Piper. Is that something that you like to hear?
Who are these people? I want names. How dare they? No, MJF I think he's a very talented, awesome wrestler. I love to watch him, but there's never going to be another Roddy Piper. And I think it discredits my dad as well as him. I mean, he's very much his own character, and he has his own legend that he's building, you know, and I've never been a fan of people being like, this person's the next this or that. It's like, you know, give him the credit he deserves. But no, there's never going to be another Roddy Piper, and that includes myself. Like, he was one in a lifetime. I don't know how to explain that.
Cool. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next up, we're going to unmic.
Let's go with Jim Barcelona with the Miami Herald. Jim, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, great. A couple questions for Teal and then also David. Thank you all so much. Teal, what has Ronda Rousey meant to you and your family?
Ronda, for me personally, I wasn't a huge MMA fan until she came on the scene, and I just fell in love with her. And regardless of training with judo Jean LaBelle, and coming from the same fighting family that my father came from, I just loved what she was doing for MMA. So I was already like on her team when she came into the light. And I was actually in the room when she was talking to my dad and about using the name Rowdy and back for MMA years ago. So as far as knowing her personally, I only met her for the first time at WrestleMania this year. But I've really been honored that she has wanted to pay such a tribute to my dad. And I think it's really, really cool of her. And it is really neat to see the Rowdy name main eventing, but for the first time as women at WrestleMania last year. That was just really, really neat. But at the same time, I also feel like that's a big part of why I wanted to go with WOW, is they've had women doing that for years. Women of wrestling have been their main event for years. And so that's why I felt like I should go with that direction right now.
And Teal, have you trained with your brother in pro wrestling? And any thoughts, if you haven't, working with him someday?
Well, we don't live in the same state right now. We are constantly trying to get together to train. The last time I did see him, we had a few drinks with the family, and then he gave me some of the first chops I've ever had. It was before I started training with WOW, and let me tell you, that was an eye-opener, and he had no sympathy as my brother. He just let me have them. So he's given me a lot of pointers over the phone, and, every time we do see each other, he mostly, gets in, the underground, old-school knowledge that he's, I don't know if somebody's told you about this or that, because he's just been trained by so many cool people. I'd say one of my big dreams in wrestling at some point down the road would be to talk him into tag teaming with me and being a brother-sister tag team. Hopefully he gets back into it at some point. I'm not sure. I think he wants to, though. I think he's getting inspired by my new love for it.
And David, do we know when we will see Teal Piper on WOW on AXS TV? Because I know the new season's coming up.
Yes, you'll see her in episode 11 or 12 on this upcoming season, and then throughout the season that's being taped this fall for delivery in January.
And also, David, you all signed some new superheroes, including Teal, and one from South Florida, where I am in Miami, Adrenaline, Diamante, Angel Rose. What can you say about it?
Well, Adrenaline is a fabulous addition to WOW. She'll be featured this year. She's going for the Tag Team Championship. She'll be joining forces with a wrestler that performs with her real name, Kiera Hogan, in Impact. And for us, because when I met her, I said, "You're a Spitfire." And I laughed. I said, "Your name should be Fire." And so she is. She's Fire, Kiera Hogan. And they will be going up against several competitors in this year's tag team tournament within the WOW episodes. And I think when we talk about the first episode that airs on Saturday night, September 7th, 8 o'clock Eastern, because many of you participating in this call today are really, truly wrestling historians, and your wrestling knowledge, I think you're going to enjoy a segment that's in this opening program on AXS, where we pay tribute to the women's tag team titles of the past. I mean, we literally go back to the 1950s with Mae Young and Ella. I hope I have the pronunciation. I think Ella Wilder. And we go through Tony Rose, Donna Cristiella, Joyce Grable, Vicki Williams, all the way up to the Jumping Bomb Angels. And I think for wrestling historians, it's great that we're able and afforded the opportunity through Pro Wrestling Illustrated and some others for licensing us footage to pay tribute to those ladies that paved the path for the success that women are achieving today in wrestling. And I think everyone would like that.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Jim. All right, our next question is going to come from Najir Chambers. Najir, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
All right. So my first question is for Teal. So you do have a busy couple of weeks coming up in your professional wrestling career. and one being your debut at WoW, which is going to be on September 18th. I guess a little soft opening question for you is, who do you have your eyes set on? Now, I did see the vignette package, which it seems kind of like you aiming for the champ right away, but I want to hear from you exactly. Who is it that you have your eyes set on?
You know, I gotta say right now, I'm really having fun with the wrestling thing, and I just kind of want to get in there and just mess up some things for the girls, to be honest. I have my eyes set on so many people. There's some great girls there, like Steffi Slays and Faith the Lioness, who are just awesome talent that I would love to work with, but also I'm not sure they're ready to deal with my personality in the ring. We shall see. I would love and also be terrified to have a match with the Beast. I think she is awesome and very epic, and if nothing else, I can unlock the cage she's in and just let her loose. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's like one of my goals down the road. We'll see how that goes. She's no joke in the ring. So,
and Teal, you mentioned when we were at AXS, which I loved, you said you were going to be the thorn possibly in the lioness paw.
Yes. In typical
also,
Piper fashion.
Yes. And I don't think that the born legend, Tessa Blanchard, appreciated when you were patting her on her head and giving her some definitely rowdy comments. I don't think she'd ever been spoken to in that manner before. So I got to tell all of you on the phone, Teal has inherited her dad's wit and skill on a microphone, and she can tear up anyone very quickly. And I've seen it in action, and she is great. And so to all the talent in WoW, I'll put out the warning. They better watch out if Teal Piper wants to get rowdy with them.
Yeah. Oh, Tessa. That cracked me up because I literally, when I was petting her on the head, was like, I'm surprised she hasn't tried to hit me yet.
I think she wants to, but she's waiting for the ring action to begin.
Clever girl.
So, you're training at WoW. How has the experience training with a legend in her own right, with Selena Majors?
Oh, Selena Majors is, she's a legend as far as women in wrestling go. She was back in the days where, right now everything's like set up for me to walk in as a female wrestler, and it's like a great time. But, she worked back in the days when it was like, you would fight tooth and nail to get any, as much recognition as the guys got. And so I have so much admiration for her, and she has just been incredible to train with. And I don't know how to say. As soon as I started training with her, I knew I wanted to be a part of WoW. I appreciated the company and everything they did with women and stuff. But as soon as I got to that training center, I was like, I like it here. This is awesome. And it's just really neat. And I feel very honored, to be honest, to be able to train with her.
That's awesome. And I guess this question is going to be for the two of you guys. Now, David, it was a pleasure to speak with you at San Diego Comic-Con, and you did leave the interview giving me a bite saying that you had a really big surprise, and it legit gave me chills because knowing the mastermind you are, I knew it was going to be something big, and in fact, signing Teal Piper is indeed that. I want to know how the recruiting process was because, you brought in some of the biggest and brightest stars into WoW, but Teal is absolutely on a whole nother level here. But I would like to know for the two of you guys, how was that recruiting process for you?
Well, it was fortunate and blessed in the fact that we share a friend of the industry in Barry Bloom, who's been an agent that's represented many talent throughout the last few years, including, he started in wrestling with Jesse Ventura, and he represented Triple H and X-Pac and many other stars throughout the industry. And he is a personal friend of Teal's dad and Teal, of course. And he called me up one afternoon and said, David, here's a unique situation. Teal's interested in getting into wrestling. We've discussed this, and I think it might be a great fit. And that was all it took, was a phone call. And I said, well, have Teal come down to the training center and meet Selena Majors and meet the WoW superheroes and see if, in fact, there's a fit, if she likes how our company, you know, the atmosphere and the camaraderie of WOW, and fortunately, it's all worked out to the best. So it was really not a recruitment. It was just a blessing that we both share a mutual friend.
Yeah. I basically just showed up to the WOW training center and refused to leave, and then eventually they started feeding me and housing me, and I've been there ever since.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, our next question here is going to come from, oh, Fred, are you there? Fred, are you there?
Marcus.
I think we lost Fred.
Okay. Try again in a second. All right. Matt Wittis, go ahead. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Excellent. First off, thanks for having us at the pop break on for the conference call. Growing up as a child in the 80s, Teal, of course, huge fan of your father's, and David, I was a big fan of your baby in Glow.
Oh.
After Glow, David, you went on to syndicate other shows nationally and internationally. And what was it about wrestling, and specifically the female-centric product, that brought you back to create WOW and continue with it over the years?
Well, one, I was lucky enough that I grew up in wrestling. Like many of us, we all see it first on usually television, and I was able to do so in the fact I had older brothers, and I fell in love with its presentation, and I was too young at the age to know what I was watching, other than I knew I loved it. And then I was able to meet a gentleman named Dick the Bruiser, who was one of the bigger promoters of the old territory days. He and Wilbur Snyder and Vern Gagne with Chicago and the Midwest. And I was fortunate enough to just start taking photographs and learn the industry from them. And what struck me when I would go on the road, and this is very interesting in listening to Teal's father and how upset he was, respectful of his appreciation for what the women wrestlers were having to go through on the road. And his appreciation was, in fact, from the experience of him having to go through many of the trials and tribulations of being the young kid on the road with the older wrestlers, and then pulling pranks on him, and him having to ride in the back of the car and sleep in the car, etc. He appreciated it. So I got to ride in the ring truck as a kid and go to the state fairs and go to the events, and I could just see that the women wrestlers weren't treated correctly on many levels, and how they were exploited. And I wasn't smart enough to know even the word exploitation. I wasn't smart enough to know, the word empowerment, any of that. I just knew it wasn't right. And subsequently, I thought of, after one evening in announcing, that we should have a women's wrestling big match. And I announced it to the live crowd, and it went wild. And I went downstairs to tell Dick the Bruiser about it. And I was told by him and all the men wrestlers that were laughing at the idea, no one's going to be interested in watching women's wrestling. It's the popcorn match. And as Teal noted earlier, even up in through the 80s, other than the time that Wendy Richter and Moolah took off, and then even into the Attitude Era, they were always treated as the accessory, and it was never right. So subsequently, I was just fortunate enough to have a dream and an idea to say there should be a league of their own. And I created Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And it never matched what the dream that I wanted it to be, because I had numerous business hurdles to tackle to keep that thing afloat. And WOW is really the vision, and WOW is really the dream that I had as a kid. And I'm very proud of it. So I think everybody that can look back and see what women's wrestling could have been will see what it should be when they watch WOW on AXS TV on the 7th at 8 o'clock, September 7th.
Excellent. And just a quick one for Teal. Teal,
Yeah.
Listen to the promos that you've cut already. There's no telling you plant apple seeds, you get apple trees. But I notice you have that command, that confidence in front of the microphone that your father had, but you're not borrowing any of his inflections. It's all very original. Is there anybody else that you watched tape of or that you took inspiration from?
To be honest, I try not to watch too many wrestling promos. I mean, I've seen a lot of the classic stuff just from things my dad had done and obviously some of the older generation. But as far as newer stuff, I think I don't want to be creatively in a box and like, I feel like if you watch something, you start trying to stylize it that way. So I think for me, the most freeing thing is just I'm kind of coming in with more of a character point of view, I think, than a lot of modern people. And I'm really enjoying that and sort of just unleashing my darker side and all the pranks I've had in my mind all these years that I didn't do. So, I mean, Teal Piper's really just the, all of that. And then I think the confidence I get on the mic is, partly from my dad, but just like you said, like I'm definitely have my own technique and personality on the mic. And I really think it just comes from actually not paying too much attention to other people so I don't start to, become a little copycat of somebody.
Yeah. All original, instant classic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Our next question here is going to come from Nick Hossman. Nick, are you there?
I am here. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today. Can you hear me, Teal? David, you there?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Loud and clear. Thank
All right.
you.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So I was calling. My questions kind of circle back on Rhonda a little bit. Teal, I know she wears your dad's jacket to the ring. Is that something you want back, or are there other jackets? Or do you not plan on using your dad's style?
I will not be wearing my dad's gear, if that's what you're wondering. As far as getting anything back, I promise our family will have everything of his at some point. So I'm not worried about that. I'm very honored, like I said, that she wanted to wear it in the ring, and I think it's very cool. Me personally, that's the same jacket my dad put on me as like a 5-year-old, So like I have such a sentimental appreciation for all of his stuff. I would feel weird wearing it into the ring. And more than that, I think especially as his kid, it's a bit in your face to just be showing up in his gimmick. I want to be my own person, so while I'll have my costume will have nods to him, it's definitely not going to be the same style that you see Ronda Rousey in.
Okay. And David, my question for you is, what are the biggest changes that you wanted to have made between this last season and this season of WoW? And also, I didn't know if you'd maybe gotten any feedback from AXS TV's owner, Mark Cuban, about what he liked and disliked.
In terms of differences, there's not much production-wise, but there will be a clear one when you look at the audience and the spectators that are now coming to the WoW event. And maybe it's more because I'm in the forest, I've seen it. But we've seen a gradual, but it's very noticeable on the upcoming season that starts on the 7th. There's a lot more women coming to WoW events, and there's a lot more kids coming. And the first 2 rows, I was amazed, was just filled with kids at last event. And to me, that's what's been missing in wrestling. I go to some of the other promotions, and I go to their events, or I'll fly to a city to see one of their pay-per-views. And you see a male-driven audience. And in WoW, you see a real family-driven audience. And we've got the kids, and that's when I got interested and loved wrestling, when I was a kid. And I see that in WoW. So I think you'll notice that on the screen. And in terms of the performances and the talent, maybe I don't notice it, but the editors tell me and people that were at the live event tell me everything's just been elevated. And I say it with being very humble. I believe we have the best wrestling show on television. And a year ago, I would have told you the best women's promotion on television. But when it starts on AXS TV on the 7th, and you watch this series, I told you last year about the Beast was a phenom. I'm telling you this year, I believe the product is the best wrestling product on television. And I don't say that with an ego boasting. I say that with full confidence and being humbled in saying it.
Well, Teal, David, thank you guys so much for the call today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Wrestling Epicenter. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. It's such a pleasure to talk to you both, David again, and Teal for you for the first time. It's kind of been covered, but I wanted to ask, do you go back and watch any of your dad's content, or do you try not to do that?
Well, when it comes to my dad's stuff, I do go back and watch it, just mostly because it's a little nostalgic for me. You know, like when, for example, the coconut promo with Jimmy Snuka.
Jimmy Snuka, right?
Yeah, I mean, I watch that and I see a lot of my dad's like personal sense of humor. You know, like I can picture him in the kitchen with that same attitude. You know, except for he doesn't then feed us with coconuts at the end, but like making a smoothie. You know, he was like a funny guy, and so I mostly watch it for those elements. And you know, I'm not worried about being affected by his promos because I grew up watching that, you know, and I know how his promos go and stuff like that. So if I'm affected, I'm already affected. You know, it's more the modern stuff that I try to stay away from a little bit just so I'm not falling into a box creatively.
Right, because the promo that they posted on YouTube, you can see a little bit of that rowdy glint in your eye as you deliver it. It's just perfect.
But that's natural.
I am his kid.
Natural.
I mean, I guess it's got to happen.
So, other than geography, what's the reason that you decided that WOW was where you're going to plant your feet for the next little while?
There are several reasons. Again, one we've already covered, being that they've had women getting equal pay and on the main stage for years now, and that's just really cool, and I really wanted to be a part of that movement and help it flourish, and you know, I just thought that was neat. And another thing that really stood out to me is when I first started training with them, you know, they like David said, they brought me to their training center, and you know, there wasn't really any pressure to be on WOW. It was just like, let's see if this is a good fit, and we'll give you some training. And so I started watching the new season of their show, and there was this one match, and they cut to a little girl in the audience, and she had this gasp, like she was just in horror and awe and like amazed at what she was watching. And I just thought it like really stuck with me. And I was like, wow, I want to have that impact as an older lady on young kids' lives. You know, like I just thought it was such a great thing for all these little girls to be looking up to, and all the women in there, you know, are awesome talent. And I just wanted to be a part of that. So that for me was another big thing that made me want to sign with WOW.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what you do. If I could ask David just one or two questions quickly?
Yes.
All right. So it's funny you use the term a league of their own, because as you're telling the story about how you decided to do that, I kind of think of the lines from the baseball movie where he says, I think you're wrong, Mr. Harvey, and I'm going to prove it to you. And you kind of did.
Yes.
Do you get a little bit of sense of pride when you look at what the other promotions are doing, like WWE with Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair main eventing WrestleMania? Do you kind of get that feeling inside that, yeah, I knew I had it right all along?
Yes, no doubt. And I've put together many other types of projects on television, and sometimes I say, how come it takes so long for others to see the vision that I saw as just a young kid with respect to women's wrestling? And so, yes, I do have a sense of pride for it. And, you know, as I noted, Glow did not end up the way I wanted it to. I left the company after its second season. But in the beginning Glow season, it was becoming what I wanted and what I envisioned. And Lisa Moretti, who went on to WWE as Ivory, was an aspect of that. And so I do have a sense of pride in that. And I remember even after I had left Glow and I started doing some announcing for NWA in some different cities, Ric Flair came up to me in the locker room one night. He looked at me and goes, "Holy smokes, you're David McLane. I watch you on TV in different hotel rooms all the time when I travel." And I said, "Yes." And so we started talking. And here was the veteran, the superstar of wrestling at that time, saying, "Wow, you really did something so, inventive to do what you did." And he said, "The wrestling talent will improve over years. You don't have that down yet, but I see the creativity in it." And so there was a star of the industry that got it. So I'll just say it's taken the industry 30 years to see what he saw and I saw way back then.
Very good. And that's kind of my last question for you guys, and then I'll let somebody else ask. More so, WOW, how does this go around on AXS TV feel different than the early 2000s version of WOW that you were a part of?
Two things. One, that was in syndication. And so we had to put events on the old traditional style and then pump them out into syndication. And unfortunately, our timing couldn't have possibly been worse in the fact that 9/11 hit, and just when we were hitting a 200 market, threshold, our advertising rug was pulled out from under us, and I just couldn't sustain it in syndication. And subsequently, this is different in two respects. The biggest difference is Jeannie Buss, a friend of mine for over 20-some years, 30 years maybe, I'm showing my age. She came to a WOW Live event and saw it and got it instantly. And Jeannie Buss got involved. And everyone in wrestling, and I mean everyone, owes a piece of gratitude to her. Because without her, I don't think you would have seen the steps that took place so quickly to move the pendulum from women's wrestling from one direction to a more athletic one. And I say that with her being an influence, as well as Teal mentioned earlier, Ronda Rousey. She moved that pendulum across the board terrifically for all women in all athletic endeavors. So it's different in that Jeannie Buss is the owner of WOW Women of Wrestling. She's got a strong passion for this sport. She's got a passion for the talent in WOW. And that's what's different from my past endeavors in this. And then when you add in Mark Cuban and the AXS TV that's a team that's led by their CEO, Andrew Simon, you've got a group of people that see the same vision, share the same vision and desire to make the league strong, and not for a short-term gain of just, putting something on television to see if it's successful and it grabs a quick rating, and if not, you move on to the next thing. And I've got a team behind me now, including the talent, including Selena Majors, who's been with me over 30 years. I met her when I was like 18, who all share the same passion and vision to drive the WOW brand and present the best women's wrestling in the world on live events and on television. And as I noted earlier, I really believe we hit the mark this year. We hit it when you watch that television program.
I can't wait to watch. Thank you guys both for taking the time and doing this with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And for those of you using the web client, you should see now a participant list on the right-hand side. And if you go next to your name and hover, you'll see there's a little raise hand button. So you can use that now to get my attention, and I'll call on you to ask a question. Teal, we have a couple of quick questions here for you from Fred Topol. The first one is, what is your daily training regimen to keep up your physique and strength for WOW?
Daily training regimen. Well, I typically run from Van Nuys to Long Beach, where the training center is. No, I'm just kidding. So
I was going to
gotta keep yourself entertained.
I didn't know you were struggling that hard to get there. Oh my!
David's like, there's a carpool. Geez. So I try to hit the gym a couple hours a day. I was doing it more so before I did joined with WOW, to be honest. And most of it I get from my brother. He always says, get your weights in at the gym and your cardio in the ring. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've been trying to get some weightlifting in, and then WOW is my cardio.
Fantastic. And one more question. Do you mentor any of the other new women who join WOW?
If anybody wants to be mentored by this Piper, sure. I think a lot of those women, they're so talented, and, I am still pretty fresh to wrestling as far as being in the ring, obviously. And so, I'd mostly, if somebody wanted to be mentored by me, I would be happy to do it, but I would never disrespect them and talk down to them, like I'm so much more veteran than the rest of them. So that, and maybe they're just afraid I'll lead them astray. I don't think anyone likes me there. They just leave me in a corner all day. It's really sad. So no.
We have a question next for you from Wilfred. Wilfred, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me well?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Congratulations, Teal, by the way. Fantastic news. Can't wait to watch you this season. I want to ask you about your idea or your brand of pro wrestling. Many say wrestling has, they call it sports entertainment, combat theater, performance art. What kind of brand are you bringing to WoW Superheroes this season?
Well, a couple things. One thing that, and I think we were talking about this earlier when asked why I was drawn to sign with WoW. One of the other reasons that I forgot to mention was I really appreciate their love and bringing back some of that old school character in wrestling. I love the storytelling, and I love exaggerating who I am and becoming a character. And so for me, that is one of the elements that I really want to bring to it, and why I appreciate everything WoW's doing as far as kind of bringing some of that old school technique and style back into wrestling. And then, as far as
what you're saying, Teal, in code is it's because David and Selena and some of them are so old, they're all old school.
No, David, she's going to kick my ass in training. Don't say that. Selena can do no wrong, okay? She's great.
Your dad would appreciate our training school and the output that you're enjoying. I know that.
Oh, absolutely. I always say that my dad would have been so proud of me. I think out of everywhere, he would have really loved me being with WoW, because he used to always say he has 3 daughters and he's a feminist at heart. And I think he would have been very proud of everything WoW was doing and the way they represent all the young ladies there. And so I do think that he would have been very excited for me to be signing with WoW. And as far as you were talking about it being a performance art, I think that's just like a weird lingo get around for taxes and whatnot and payroll. But if you've ever been in the ring and really worked at it, I wouldn't call it, you can't fake falling 10 feet. That hurts. Like my dad used to say, you might not think wrestling's real, but I can make you believe I am. So I don't know. It feels pretty real. So I'm just training as hard as I can and trying to bring my own personality and own aspect into WoW.
Well, there's no doubt that you're going to have a target on your back this season. But let me ask you: Are you aiming directly for the singles gold, or are you recruiting anybody for the tag team titles this year?
I can't go into it too much. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about anything. But what I can tell you is that, there probably is a target on my back, and I think it's hilarious, and I will be doing everything to make that target bigger.
And real quick for David, if you don't mind, lots of options are out there right now for wrestling fans with viewing options, but tell us about your cohesion with AXS TV and how you guys share mutual successes together and how they're the best platform for WoW Superheroes.
Well, they had a platform in the fact that they had New Japan Wrestling, and they nurtured that from bringing in past episodes of New Japan and building the brand over time. And subsequently, that climax last year with their big event in Long Beach at the Pyramid, when they had a sold out, New Japan event here in Long Beach, California. And so the partnership, the development, as I said, what's different now is I've got a team behind WOW, which I never had when I was promoting women's wrestling before. I didn't have a team that was with the same vision and drive. And subsequently, what's great about AXS is they've created a whole night in their Saturday night lineup for professional wrestling with the Saturday Night Slam series. And WOW's fortunate enough to open that up. And secondly, then they re-air WOW after New Japan Wrestling, in case you're on the West Coast and you're still getting home from work. So that is special in the fact that you've got a dedicated network to promoting and using promotional time, and it's already out there and connected itself to the wrestling fan. Television is becoming more and more like radio, where it's target demographic audience specific. And wrestling fans know AXS TV provides the best in wrestling. It's a destination spot, not unlike, USA Network was for years for WWE. You knew you're going to see WWE on USA Network. And I think that's why, I forget what year it was when they left and maybe went to Paramount or somewhere, but they came back to USA. I guess they went to Spike at one point. It's creating a home where fans know where to tune in and watch. And I think that's what's special about the partnership.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question here is going to come from Queen. Queen, are you there?
Yes, hi. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, hello, Your Majesty.
Oh, hello. How are you, dear? It's an absolute.
Are you calling in from England?
No, sadly, as my American accent gives away, I'm not British.
Oh.
Rats, huh? I know. Teal, a pleasure to speak with you again. I just wanted to ask you really quickly, what has been the biggest learning curve for you since deciding to enter the business, and what has come sort of the easiest for you?
So for me, I think the biggest what easiest for me is obviously on the mic. I mean, I'm coming from a camera background, and my father and everything. That is an area I feel a lot more comfortable in. And as far as the way the business is run and, kind of how it works, I feel pretty comfortable with all of that. There's not a lot of stuff blindsiding me right now as far as what I'm getting myself into. But I mean, like anybody who is just entering a ring and training, obviously the hardest thing for me is, it's one thing watching, it's another thing doing. So as much as I like to believe it's coming along naturally and, I got it in my DNA and everything, nobody's born with that. You have to train and you have to work hard. And anybody who says they just got in the ring and was amazing is a liar. You have to put the work into it. And so for me, that's the most challenging, is just making sure I'm putting the same amount of dedication in as attention I'm getting. Obviously being my dad's kid, I'm getting a lot more eyes on me than a lot of other people entering the sport. And so I feel the hardest hurdle is just making sure I'm delivering what people are expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And a question for both you and David, how do you guys both respond to and react to the shift in this landscape of the wrestling business over the past year, and sort of the change in what we hear being called, the women's evolution?
I think it's awesome. I mean,
I'll answer first, but I think it's great.
Okay.
And I think it was Matthew's question earlier, I think it's all caught up to what, in terms of myself individually and WOW, where it went out in syndication, 18 years ago, has been trying to do for women. So for me personally, it is a sense of pride, and I love it. And I love the fact that so many fans are finally getting what they want to see. And in terms of the WOW product, it's the only all-women's wrestling show, period, on television, period. And I think it's a great alternative to what else is out there. And I think the fact that the women in the WWE, Impact Wrestling, AEW are finally getting a spotlight shined on them is just incredible. And it's about damn time. And I think the fans are really the benefactors of it. So I just think it's great. And I think Teal shares the same sentiment.
Absolutely. You know, if it wasn't for people like David and Selena Majors, this movement wouldn't even be possible. I mean, they were advocating for this so much longer ago than when it became reality. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of Women of Wrestling for that reason alone. Also, I've spoken to how my father's death helped push me into this direction in life and became something I wanted to do, and that's really when Teal Piper was born. But another huge push was this movement of women in the industry, you know, and I think we're seeing it in all aspects of entertainment and in the world right now. There's this big movement for women coming forward, and I wanted to be a part of it. And when I saw the respect they were getting and the hard work and like the real talent, I was like, I want to work with these girls. Like, I want to be part of this movement. I don't want to sit and watch it. Like, I want to affect change for the better, and I want to give the fans these epic women, you know. So it's a huge part of why I'm here and why I signed with Women of Wrestling.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Kristen Ashley. Kristen, are you there?
I am. Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So my question for you, Teal, I mean, you've already alluded to this, and it's natural for people to associate you with your father, but how going forward are you, or will you at all, establish a brand separate from your father?
I would like to establish a brand separate from my father. I mean, yesterday. I mean, most of my life I was doing that. I've always worked under his biological name, not his stage name, and it wasn't until wrestling that it just felt weird not to use his name in wrestling, and you know, not to embrace being his kid in wrestling. It almost, you know, you can't just pretend that didn't happen. But I hope that as people see me perform and stuff, they'll, you know, I don't want my dad's legacy to be forgotten, and I want to build upon it, but I don't want to, you know, I can't build upon his legacy. I can only add to the story of the Pipers in general. So, you know, his legacy is built. There's nothing that's ever going to change that. But I hope to start my own brand and to be recognized for my own creative things in the ring and performances and, you know, all of that. Like, I hope to expand, not just talk about what used to be.
Okay, and then
I want to comment on that subject matter. Respectful of Teal joining WOW and our mutual friend Barry calling me, and I said certainly we'll avail the school and as a friendship and let her get in the ring and train, and we'll see what happens. At that time and point, I had zero clue that there would be an opportunity for us to do something together. And it wasn't until I got feedback on the quality of a person that Teal Piper is individually. She herself as an individual, that I thought, wow, maybe there's some fit for us to do something. I hadn't even met Teal at that point when she had gone to the initial training school. And her engagement with us was based on comments made by others that said she's got her own personality, her own style, and she's a great person. And I mention that because the same thing happened a year ago. We were able to get Tessa Blanchard involved. And I was told to look at Tessa Blanchard and actually hire her 3 years ago. And my initial comment was, I'm not going to hire someone because of their last name or their dad's legacy. And I got fortunate enough by total accident to meet Tessa Blanchard last year at a live event. And when I left, I told Selena Majors and someone else at our company, I said, she'll be working for us in 30 days. And they laughed and said, what do you mean? You said you'd never hire her. I said, I just met her and had a meeting with her for 10 minutes eating a hot dog. She's a great person. And I look for quality people to bring into WOW, and not just because of their name. And so I want to say Teal Piper's in WoW because of her individuality and that she's a great person.
Thank you, David. That's so kind. I'm glad my long con is working on you, making you think I'm so nice a person.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And then kind of on the same thought line, do you find that your wrestling style is similar to your father's, or is it pretty different?
You know, I think I feel I'm still developing what my in-ring style will be. You know, I'm learning so much right now at such a fast rate, and I'm working with as many people as I can. So, you know, as far as what my style in the ring will be in the long run as I continue my career and develop, you know, I it's kind of hard to put the mirror on myself and like tell you that. But I do think that while there'll be elements of my dad, you know, he was a heel, and I think I really like being a heel. You know, so there's going to be elements of them, but I'm definitely, I think, have my own body language in the ring and my own way of thinking in the ring. And, you know, there's definitely going to be, Teal Piper's going to be its own character for sure.
And then one more question. You know, you have experience acting as well as music. What do you think that brings to your new path in wrestling for you?
Well, you know, they say wrestling's explosion, acting's implosion, so you just kind of reverse it and you got wrestling, right? As far as being on the mic, I think that it gives me an advantage in the sense that I know how to connect with material and present parts of me that, you know, I don't like to call it acting because it's not. It's just these parts of me that I wouldn't normally show in life. And in the ring and on the mic, I get to be who I want to be without consequence, which is a very dangerous privilege to have, to be honest. So I think that acting really helps me release that inhibition, as well as to be able to connect and with material and just really believe and feel all of these things I'm saying. And while they might sound in good fun or whatever, like for me, it's something that when I get on the mic, I'm saying things I believe, and you know, it's not acting, but it helps me connect with my inner self and to be able to deliver that, if that makes any sense. I got really weirdly spiritual on that last time.
So it made sense. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kristen. All right, our next question is going to come from Matt Durnley. Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
We can hear you, Matt.
Hi. I've got just one question for each of you. First of all, Teal, when you first looked into training in professional wrestling, did you have any specific goals?
Goals. I have personal goals as far as what I want to do in my career. You know, I want to. I really look at things like Piper's Pit, and I want to have a similar impact. You know, I want to relive that glory, or like that. I don't know. I don't know how to say it other than I just kind of want to like mess with people in the ring. I don't know. But as far as goals, you know, I want to see what I can do, to be honest. More than anything, I want to get in the ring and see what I can do and see how far I can push it. And while any wrestler dreams of a championship belt and those types of things, which would be awesome, it isn't a necessity in my career. It's not something I feel I have to have as much as I want to get in the ring with all these people and test myself against them. So I guess and also I think I mentioned earlier, I think it would be cool to work with my brother sometime down the road if I ever get him to come back over into the dark side of wrestling.
Brilliant. And just one question for David. Where do you see WOW Women of Wrestling in the history of women's wrestling?
I see it being still developing its history, but I see it as instrumental in the fact that it's, you know, the only all-women's wrestling program dedicated to women. And I think its place will be held in high standard due to the fact we've got some of the best talent in the country wrestling for WOW. And I think that it'll be held in high standard because I think the fans can be proud of it as I am. And so in terms of history, that story's not written, but I think it's going to be held in very high standard. And my goal is WOW outlast me. My vision started as a kid, and I'd like to see it continue. So one of the great things I enjoy about this is, Faith the Lioness is only 19 years old. Steffi Slay started with us when she was 18, still in high school. We have another performer that's with us now that just got out of high school and she's starting. So, it gives me great pleasure to think that, hey, anything happens to myself, WOW's going to continue, and it's got a wealth of young talent coming up that we're helping to train. And so I think that's, going to also speak to its history. That'll be long-lived and it'll have a longevity.
That's brilliant. Thanks for your time, both of you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Brian Green. Brian, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me good?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Well, I have a question for both David and Teal. So I will begin with David. I just wanted to address WOW in its first incarnation for a minute, because it seemed like the goal at that time in the early 2000s was to make it to, say, pay-per-view. As one wrestler called it, it was the promised land for pro wrestling. But we all know that the landscape has changed significantly since then. Do you have any short-term goals / hurdles that the WOW is looking to tackle going into 2020 and beyond?
When we started WOW, our initial goal was to build out its platforms for social media. And even though the company had WOW Women of Wrestling in various versions on all its social media, we had to strip those out and start from literally scratch and put everything under one brand name. Many people told me I was stupid because I was giving up 50,000 fans on certain platforms. And I said, if we don't do it then, we'll be in bad shape 3 to 5 years from now. So everything's under WOW Superheroes. And we've created a platform to which now we can, with an establishment vis-a-vis AXS TV, grow WOW digitally. And so that's the opportunity that Jeannie Buss and I are looking at right now. We hope to be with AXS TV for quite a while. We wouldn't have started or gotten this far without Mark Cuban and Andrew Simon jumping in the pool with us. And if they didn't, believe me, you even see it with other wrestling leagues. It's not easy to get a wrestling company on television. If it was, there'd be a lot more people doing it. So the goal, as you noted, what's our goal? Our goal is to grow the brand digitally so that more people, more eyeballs can see it, and also internationally. And so those will be the efforts that will start to take place and roll out in 2020. Oh, and there's one more goal.
What's
definitely that? In terms of Jeannie Buss. She really wants to see WOW touring and live events in different cities. And we haven't done it yet because I've grown up in the wrestling business knowing how difficult that is to go city to city. And we're not there yet to go do it and make it sustain itself. So for now, it's not really a traditional wrestling company that's going city to city and pushing out content. We're developing it. We're doing what AXS TV did with New Japan Wrestling. We're slowly fertilizing the ground and developing the brand so that when we do it, it will be successful, just as they did when they brought New Japan to Long Beach a year
ago. The second question is a 1 and 1A for Teal.
Yes.
You already talked about the Piper's Pit thing, and your father being a great talker is one of the hallmarks of his career. Are we going to expect you to produce anything similar in the land of WoW? And secondly, and I guess either one of you can answer this, how long will it be before you gold/convince Jeannie Buss to get into the ring?
Well, as far as if I will be bringing anything similar to WoW, I can't go into too many details right now, or David will probably yell at me. But I'm just kidding. He's such a nice guy. But I would like, as far as my own personal goals, I love being on the mic and I love stirring the pot, so it does feel like a natural position for me to end up in. And then as far as Jeannie Buss, I actually haven't had the pleasure of meeting her yet. I'm a big fan, seeing as I'm now employed by her. But no, I am a big fan of hers, and I would love to get her in the ring. That would be fun.
I'll give you guys a little heads up. Now, Cindy, I'm not going to tell what's really coming, but it will be out, I guess, next Tuesday or Wednesday?
On Wednesday.
On next Wednesday, there will be something coming out from AXS TV, and Jeannie Buss will be in the ring. Jeannie Buss, it's her first steps in the purple trademark ring of WoW Women of Wrestling. And Cindy will be releasing that next Wednesday. So there's a scoop for all of you.
That's a good tease.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. It's exciting. Swear I didn't make her do it against her will, guys. It's all on her own.
We all got the scoop for it. Thanks a lot, guys.
All righty.
All right, thanks, Brian. Okay, our next question is going to come from Matt D. Matt, are you there?
I am.
All right, you're on.
Great. I had a question for Teal and for David. For Teal, second generation superstars wrestlers tend to have a bit of an expectation that comes with the name or their lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at a WoW champion like Tessa Blanchard, who has accomplished quite a bit since her career started, is it something you're aware of that concerns you, or are you just going in and hitting the ground, running and doing your own thing?
I'd say a little of both. I'm the kind of person that always doesn't think about these things and just goes and has fun and tries not to think too hard about it, because I think if you live in that stigma, then you're planning for failure. But yeah, I mean, obviously they're big shoes to fill, and nobody's going to fill them. I'm just trying to make my own footprints here. But there's some legacy kids that do really well, and there's definitely a stigma of, it's almost an eye roll for some people when the kids get into the business. And I try not to think about it. Am I trying to be my dad? No, I'm not. But I recognize that I am his kid, and I hope to make my own footprint for my kid to stress over someday.
Mm-hmm. And I know you briefly mentioned your in-ring style you're still learning. Is there maybe a specific style or one or two things that you're leaning towards as your in-ring training progresses?
Cheating? Is that a style? No, I mean, I'm not really joking there. I can hear my dad calling from heaven being like, cheat, Ariel, you're 34 years old. You're only... as far as style, like I said, I'm really picking up. I think that you'll see a lot of Selena Major style, because obviously the trainers you work with have a big influence on you, and then you kind of take it and make it your own. I'm sure I'll have some of my dad's style just from picking up things from him over the year, and some of the people that trained my brother and that type of thing. But I'm still really exploring. I don't want to pigeonhole myself and tell you like, oh, I'm going to have this specific style, because I'm not. I'm still learning as an entertainer and as an athlete. And I think you do that till the day you die. I think anybody who stops trying to improve themselves usually gets a shorter career. So, I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but I think I'm still learning, what my style is going to be, other than to go in there and have fun, which is really my game plan.
Awesome. Look forward to it. And man, my question for David, and David, I was a fan of the original iteration of WoW and this one. You talked about Jeannie Buss wanting to tour the brand. Maybe not that, but has there been any thought to maybe doing a one-time trip to a New York or a Florida? Because I mean, the scene out everywhere is up and popping, maybe not touring, but like going to like a Chicago, going to New York and doing like a one-time or weekend event there?
We did do an event in South Carolina or North Carolina a year ago, and we did do an event appearance somewhere else. But in terms of a live event with all the wow spectacle that is event that's shown at the Belasco Theater, not yet, because we've had offers by two big touring companies, and we even had financial deposits put down. And I just didn't think that the recognition of the brand was yet established enough. And I think we need this next season on television and the brand to grow more. These buildings are very expensive to go to. And when you get into union labor and lighting and cost, you're into a few $100,000 to turn the building's keys on. And you've got to be ready for that. And I don't want any third parties to go out prematurely bringing the brand out. We've got a long-term vision, and we're bullish on we will be successful, but we're doing it methodically and slowly to make sure this thing sustains itself and lasts. And secondly, we're learning what talent performs and what talent resonates and what the fans want. And I think that's all an element of taking it out on the road, if you will. I grew up in wrestling, so I know what it is to take it out city to city, and we're just not ready yet.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. And just kind of one other question, and thank you all for the time. David, when your talent roster in WoW is pretty stacked, but looking at women's wrestling as a whole, there's a lot of talent out there. Has there been any thought given to like maybe bringing like a standout wrestler that's on the independent scene in for WoW for like a one-shot match or like a special feature?
No, because the two big performers that I would love to have engaged in WoW currently are under contract at the WWE, so we're not going to get them. And from the independent wrestling that's out there, city to city and state to state, the answer is no. We have the best women's wrestling talent in a form of a group or as a whole wrestling for WoW. There's two individuals I'd love to have, but they're in WWE and have long-term successful contracts with them. So the answer is no.
Okay, thanks so much, David. I appreciate it. Teal, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
If anyone has any more follow-up questions, please feel free to let me know. David, we got a couple of questions here that was sent in by Darren Paltrowitz. He had to jump off.
Okay.
He wants to know, at what point did you realize that Glow was actually influential and not just a fine piece of nostalgia?
I'm going to answer that question in 1 second. Give me one moment.
Sure.
I think the answer to that question is the moment I was doing it, I recognized it. And I say that again with being all humble. That when I was doing it, I knew it was something special at the time, and I knew that it would have a place that would be memorable. And I don't know how I knew that. I didn't know the future. I didn't know I was going to leave the company. But I just knew it when I was doing it. No one knows the real story of Glow. No one. And Netflix has a show on that's very successful, and I think the writers get all the kudos for capturing the essence of the sisterhood of the women that tried out for Glow. But no one knows the true story of what it took to even get the thing up and get it going in the business and everything that went on with it. And subsequently, I was just fortunate enough and blessed to know I was doing something special when I was actually doing it.
Fantastic. And this will be our last question for you, and I think it's a good one to end on. David, has there been a wow moment that makes you most proud so far? And then separately, is there an accomplishment you're most proud of?
Wow, what a question to hit me with. Usually I'm not tongue-tied.
It's a loaded question.
Tell me the question one more time, Sean, just so I get it exactly.
Sure. Has there been a wow moment that makes you most proud so far?
There's many of them, so I don't want to discount one by saying one in particular. But this goes back to what Cindy and you are going to release next Wednesday. My proudest moment. I get choked up.
Aww.
When Jeannie Buss got in the ring, and you'll see what she did in the ring next Wednesday, that was one of my proudest moments. What took place in the ring with Jeannie Buss is a proud moment. And you'll all get to see why next Wednesday when AXS TV reveals what that is.
All right. Well, that will do it for us today. Thank you, everyone who joined us for this great call.
Yeah, it's 87 minutes in. We can't thank you enough. The stories were, your questions were incredible. And Teal and David, thank you so much for those thoughtful answers. I hope you guys know that we have a press website, our media center that has all kinds of, we put some new videos in with all the latest wrestlers.
Yep.
We have art there for you. And that's where we'll put episodes for review in there. But if there's anything that we can do more to service you and make your jobs easier, Sean and I are open for anything. We're happy to help you. We couldn't be where we are without the support of the press.
And just a reminder, WOW does return for Season 2 on AXS TV on Saturday, September 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're also doing tapings for the second half of the second season on September 18th and 19th in the Belasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles. So if anyone would like to join those, we will be sending out details for press credentials for that next week.
Tell them where the seats are.
Oh, yeah, and the seats, of course, are directly behind David McLane and Stephen Dickey, the commentators, so you can, get the best. You can't get any closer, and you can't get a better experience.
But thank you, everybody.
All right,
and if
thank you,
come,
everyone.
make sure you introduce yourself to me, because you'll be right behind me.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.